As you can imagine, as a web designer, content creator, I spend an awful lot of time sat in front of a screen, creating websites, testing things out, and all manner of different creative ventures. So over the years, I've kind of honed the collection of tools that I use to speed up my processes and make myself more productive. And I want to share a collection of those with you today. Now, none of these are big, massive applications like Final Cut Pro and things like that. These are all creative little tools and enhancements that can help speed up your everyday workflow. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Paul C. I'm an online educator, trainer, and freelancer that's been working with WordPress for over 10 years. So let's start by taking a look at the first application that I use every day just to make my life a little bit more organized. Now, I use an application called Eagle. Now, Eagle is an asset management tool. Now, that sounds really grand, but what it basically means is it allows you to organize your assets, your video files, your audio files, your bookmarks, your documents, your photographs, images, all manner of different things. Great if you're working with clients, great if you have inspiration and things like that. This has been a game changer for me. I can't say it's going to be for you, but for me, this has just made everything so simple and easy. Why? Not specifically just because of Eagle. Because I connect this up to another service that I use, which I'll talk about a little later, which is an online cloud storage platform, I can have everything synchronized in the cloud, and then all the devices I use, my laptop, my phone, everything can access the information that I've got stored inside Eagle. It is that useful. Let me quickly show you my setup. So this is where I organize a lot of my everyday life. You can see if we take a look to the left-hand side, this is where all your folder structure is. So you can see that I've got things like clients, commercial documents, mid-journey images, general assets, and then we've got things like web design inspiration. So for example, if I see a blog design that I like, I can use the little sort of clipper. I can just drag and drop it straight into Eagle. That'll synchronize across all my devices via the cloud, and then I have access to it. Or that alone is really useful. So as an example, you can see we've got images inside here for blog design, so I can take a look at these and I think, okay, I like various different aspects. But on top of that, I can do other things as well. If we select one of these images on the right-hand side, you can see it pulls in the color palette. It shows me the main colors inside this particular image, document, whatever it is. We can give it names, we can put notes in, links in, add tags to it so I can search against those tags, set different folders. We've also got access then using additional plugins, and this is new in version 5 of Eagle. It opens up a ton more functionality. You can see I've got a histogram inside here, which can be useful if we're looking at images. I can rate this, I can find out file information, but not just that. All that organization side of things is incredibly useful. But let's just say I want to do some other things. Let's select all these images inside here. Let's come up to the plugins, like I say, which is a new feature. And now let's say I want to compress all these images. Hit the compressor, that takes me into that plugin. All my files are in there. I can adjust the compression settings, for example, and then once I'm happy, I can hit compress. Job done. That itself is quite useful. But then also, let's just say, and this is one of those things that I think is really super useful. When you kind of have images, you may want to create different crops for different use cases, for a website, for social media, for Facebook, for Twitter, all have different requirements. Well, instead of having to take that image and crop it multiple times, what you can do is you can use another one of these plugins. And these are all free and part of Eagle. We've got the Image Crop Master. So I can open this up and I can create a crop. There's my first one. I can say I'll create another one. There's my second one. I'll create another one. There's my third one. All my crops are in there. And now all I need to do is choose what format I want to export them at. And then I can hit export and I've got 3 different crops of the same document. You can even have ones that are overlapping. So we can create another one. You can see we can adjust this one. We can overlap these. You kind of get the idea. There's another one. We can add another one if we want to. That'll put the crop box in. We can just resize it. Lots of different ways in which you can work. So this opens up even more possibilities inside Eagle itself. And this is just 2 examples of multiple different options that are plugins you can add on top of what already is a really useful platform. Now, speaking of the cloud platform that I'm talking about here, I use what's called Pcloud. Now, Pcloud, in my example, gives me 2 terabytes of storage. And because I connect everything up through Eagle into this, I have one database kind of stored inside here that has all of those files shared. But I don't just use it for that. This gives me a drive on my desktop that I can access, and I can put files in there that'll synchronize. So everywhere that you actually have access to this particular drive, any machine, using the simple app that's on part of your Mac or your PC or whatever, you can access those files. So think of Dropbox as a very similar kind of setup to Dropbox. But Pcloud is one I bought a lifetime deal on for 2 terabytes a couple of years back. And I use this an awful lot to just share information between all of my devices. But primarily, one of the main use cases is it's incredibly useful for working alongside Eagle. But I also use it for things like my backups, remote backups, and so on. You can encrypt data inside here. A lot of different reasons why you may want to take a look at something like Pcloud. Link to this and everything else in the description down below. Now, another online tool that's completely changed the way in which I work and sped up my process of working on creating clients' websites, my own websites, testing themes, testing plugins and things like that out is Insta WP. I can deploy a website in a matter of a second. I can clone sites. I can set up blueprints that I can use inside here. I can simply go to any plugin or theme in the repository on WordPress and click the Insta WP plugin link button on there, and it'll open that up, create a site for me, or add it to a site that I choose, and it's installed, activated, and ready to go. So whereas before I would be using something like SiteGround, I'd create a subdomain, then I'd install WordPress inside there, then I'd install all the different bits and pieces I wanted. That could generally take maybe 5-10 minutes just to test something out. So it got a little bit unwieldy. InstaWP, when I bought this on AppSumo probably 2 years ago now, was an absolute godsend for me. I'm not going to say game changer, because we all say game changer too much, but this actually has changed the game for me. Like I say, your mileage may vary. But I can easily deploy websites in a matter of a second. I can host websites. I can transition websites. I can use this as a staging site. There are so many different use cases. I've got videos on this, which you can check out, the link in the description to the playlist, and take a look at all the things when I've covered InstaWP from when I first bought it and how it's developed and moved on when I kind of re-reviewed it 6 months afterwards to see the differences. And that's nowhere near what you could do with it right now. Check out InstaWP, link in the description. Now, another web app that I use every single day for a multitude of different reasons, including things like creating thumbnails, social media, and creating mock-up graphics for various different things when it comes to creating social media posts and things along those lines, is Shorts.SO. Again, I covered this probably about a year ago. That had like 250,000 views on it. I done a re-review on it recently where some new features been added in, but this is just such a nice, simple web app to work with to create amazing looking mockups on various different devices. If you want, you can use browser windows, you can use tablets, laptops, you name it. Most of it is probably going to be inside here, and you can easily put your mockups here. So if you want to create a sort of portfolio of your work and you want to mock it up to make it look cool on different devices and so on, this is a great application for doing that. It's totally free. You can use this as you see fit. Then you can export these out to 3 times. So you can get up to, I think it's about 6K images. So they should be more than good enough quality. They're TIFF images, so they're not going to be poor quality images with compression applied and so on. This is a fantastic app, and this is how online apps should operate. It is so smooth to work with. It feels like a native app on your actual computer itself. Check out Shorts.SO and check out the videos I've released recently so you can get a good understanding of how you can start using it. Now, when you build websites, you're obviously going to need somewhere to host them. And this is where I bought into XCloud recently. Now, XCloud isn't actually hosting per se, but what it is a kind of front-end dashboard that allows you to connect up to cloud platforms, things like Vultr and so on, and gives you a much nicer visual way of working. Now, this is probably around about 8 to 10 months old at this point in time, but it has come so far from when I first bought into it on a lifetime deal that this is something I'm transitioning various different sites over, using Vultr as the back end kind of side of things. I will be taking a look at other ones. And if you want me to take a look at creating a video on this to show you how it all works and some of the options available, let me know in the comment section down below and I'll take a look at creating something. But it is a nice way of working, connecting things up if you don't want to use something like Cloudways or things like that. This gives you the same kind of visual connection, but you have control over various different aspects. But if you want to get into handling the sort of server side of things, but you don't necessarily want to have all that amazing technical knowledge, this is a nice happy middle ground you may want to check out. Take a look at XCloud, again, link in the description down below. Next on the agenda is a little app that I cannot live without, and everybody that I've told about this has said how useful it is. Now, I use this primarily for when I'm creating the video projects, but you could use this for working with websites or anything else where you create the same folder structure and maybe use the same files every single time. So for my example, I use this when I create video projects. So inside there, I'll have multiple folders and starting files. I'll have folders for my videos broken down into things like B-roll, A-roll to camera, screen capture, and so on. I'll have things for documentation to do with the project. But inside there, I'll also have a Final Cut Pro file. I'll have a template file for the actual thumbnail and various other things as well. But the beauty of this is it doesn't just create the folder structure. When you create and use Posthaxor, you give that project a name. And then the files that you want to be named the same, so my thumbnail, my Final Cut Pro project, and so on, they will be named exactly the same as the folder structure that I've created. So if I call this Top 5 WordPress Themes, then I'd have a Final Cut Pro project called Top 5 WordPress Themes. I'd have a thumbnail template with the same name and anything else I want to set up. And I'd have the folder structure that I always use on every single project. Like I say, super useful, totally free, and you could use this in so many different ways. Great if you're a web designer with the same kind of folder structure for every project you work on. A great starting point. Now, the next little tool is unfortunately a Mac-only app at this point in time, but I get asked so often, how do I create those great-looking screenshots for things like my social media posts on Twitter, Facebook, and so on, or using it inside creating tutorials where I want screenshots but make them look really cool? Well, I use a tool called Snapper, X-Snapper, but it's called Snapper. Like I say, sadly, this is a Mac-only app at this point in time, but it is super useful. Create a keyboard shortcut, use that shortcut, grab what you want off the screen, and then customize the look and feel of it in a matter of seconds, and the end result looks absolutely amazing. You can also get it on your iPhone and your iPad, but you do have to pay for it on the separate to if you buy it for your actual desktop itself. So just bear that in mind. But it's so easy, and I use this again every single day when I grab multiple different screenshots for various different reasons. I might want to share something with someone and say, look, this is what I'm talking about. Grab it, send it over, job done in a matter of seconds. Absolutely love Snapper. But if you want to take Snapper and put it on steroids, you probably want to check out Cleanshot X. Now, I don't use this as much as I use Snapper because Snapper is just set as a keyboard shortcut and I know exactly what I want to do. But if I want to do quick screen captures, I'll use Cleanshot X. If I want to annotate and show more information on a tutorial image, I'll do the same kind of capture, set a few things up inside here and then put pinpoints on there to show different steps and stages and so on. But there's so much you can do with Cleanshot X. So like I say, it is like Snapper on steroids and then a little bit more. I would recommend checking it out. Again, unfortunately, it is only a Mac app. So if you're a PC user, you're not going to have access to this particular plugin or this particular tool, this app. But it is such a great little app. And if you are a Mac user, everybody should be using Cleanshot X. Now, this was probably a little bit more niche, but if you have a use case for grabbing videos and you want to transcribe them, or grab podcasts and you want to get transcriptions, or you want to convert them into different languages and so on, create subtitles and all those kinds of good things, MacWhisper is brilliant. This is updated probably every other day. And since I bought this, thanks to David McCann for recommending it, it has changed the way in which I work with videos. I create my videos as normal, and then I use MacWhisper to create the subtitles, which I can quickly tweak, but I can also go in there, and if I know it makes the same mistake on names or my name or product names and things like that, I can set a little dictionary inside there, so if it sees the misspelling that it tends to do, it will automatically change it to the right spelling, so I spend less time having to check it. It works with ChatGPT, so if you're a ChatGPT subscriber, you can connect the two things up and you have a lot of power here, and you can use different models, different language models with greater or lesser degree of control. But you can use this with free version of ChatGPT, or you can connect it up to your pro version. But this is so useful, and I can use this in various different ways because I can use ChatGPT then to actually use AI to do things like create the descriptions for my videos, get it to create the basic starting point for a tutorial based upon the transcription of the video I've created. This is how I do a lot of that work, and I can do this in probably 1/10 of the time it would take me to manually do it. MacWhisper worth every single cent. Now, speaking of ChatGPT, they recently released the app for ChatGPT. So instead of having to go to the website to do things, now I can simply press a keyboard shortcut I get a little pop-up and I can start using ChatGPT directly inside my Mac itself. Just saves me that little bit of extra time where I don't need to go into the actual website, log in because I've been logged out, and then start working. So I get all the benefits of using ChatGPT, the history and all those kinds of things, inside a native Mac app that operates inside the operating system, and it just makes everything so much quicker and easier than going to the website. Is it a time saver? Yes. Is it required? No, not really, but it is something that I've found that once I've installed it, got it set up, I use it probably every day to do lots of just little things, reword things and so on, various different use cases. But the app is well worth installing. Okay, we're on the home straight. We've only got a couple more to go, so if you stuck with me this long, thank you very, very much. The next one is called Sip. Now, there's probably tons of different apps that do exactly the same thing here, but what this allows me to do is simply just grab a color. All I need to do is come up to my toolbar, activate it, and I can come over and I can choose a color. Boom, simple as that. But that's the way I use it, to be incredibly simple. But you don't have to. There's lots of other options. You can have a little pop-up menu bar that sits on the side. You can create color palettes that you can then easily reference. You can use different color modes, so hexadecimal, HSL, all those kinds of things. There's so many different little things that you can use SIP for, that if you are working in a creative environment, there's going to be lots of times where you need to grab a color for various different reasons, and you may want to save those as a color palette for a project. This can do it all for you, and lots more. I probably use it for really, really basic functionality, but it's just such a useful little app that's sitting in my dock all the time, and when I need it, I can just use it, get the color, job done, is copied into my clipboard. I can then just use it as I need to. SIP, really cool. And finally, we've got Squash. Again, unfortunately, this is a Mac-only app, but this is just, again, super useful. It integrates into your operating system, so you can right-click and you can choose to open Squash up and do various different things. But what I like about this is that I can easily batch process images. I can apply effects to them. I can resize them. I can change the format of them. I can rename them. I can apply naming conventions. I can do so many little things just with a bunch of images. One image, 100 images, it doesn't matter. Because it's a native app, I haven't got to upload anything and then have to re-download it. It's all done directly inside the app itself. And I found this gives really, really solid results. It's quick, it's easy, it's integrated into your OS. I use this every single day when I'm optimizing images and changing them to WebP and so on. One of the things I always tell you to do, optimize before you upload. This is a great little tool to do it. You could obviously use Eagle to do the same kind of thing. I've just found that this is part of my workflow, and this is what I'm used to working with, and I like the way it works, and I like the workflow it has. And you can easily save templates that you can call back up to use for a repeatable set of actions, and you can save multiple ones of those and then use them as and when you need them to. But these are the tools that change the way in which I work, make my life a lot easier, speed up my everyday workflow. But let me have yours in the comment section down below. Give me some ideas of tools you cannot live without, little apps that have changed the way you work and sped up your overall workflow. As always, all applicable links in the description. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts. Until next time, take care.